What's good? What's happening, everybody? It's your boy Ferris Mthana. Welcome to another great edition of LGRN Reviews. Today's a very special edition because we will be reviewing the documentary Federer, 12 Final Days. We
You could
literally
say it's
just
a rally special edition
it's
of
a rally. Yes, it is.
LGRN
It's a
Reviews.
rally. It's a rally special edition. We literally just finished watching it about like 10 minutes ago. And to take us through it with me, as always and forever, is the one, the only. It is Adelia. Adelia, how are you?
I'm good, Ferris. How are you?
I'm extremely emotional right now.
Me too.
Yeah.
It was a very emotional documentary.
Yes, it was. It was. So it was. So given the context of the story, it is. So Roger Federer commissioned, um, documentary filmmaker Ashraf. I think it's Ashif. Ashif. I think that's.
I
I think that's.
I would not know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, I'm gonna double check. I want. I want to give the man the credit he deserves because he did it
All
again.
right. Well, you check his name. I'll just give the thing. He commissioned these documentary filmmakers to make a home video of the last few days of his career, the 12
Hmm.
final days of his career as a professional tennis player. And they decided to, the end product was so good and it was phenomenal that they decided to release it on Amazon
Hmm.
Prime around the world. And we watched it today and it was fantastic.
His name is Ashif Kapadia.
Thank you.
He's also the documentary filmmaker who created Amy, as well as the Diego Maradona documentary Maradona, and the Ayrton Senna documentary Senna, and three one of the greatest documentaries of all time. People say they loved all three of those documentaries, and this is how you know Roger Federer is a phenomenal person. This man was like, "Hey, documentary filmmaker who's won Grammys and Oscars. Can you
Hmm.
make me a home movie?"
Yeah.
What? Like what? Well, usually when if I was in charge of, if I wanted to make a home movie by myself, I'll probably just film it myself with my little camcorder. But he was like, I'm gonna hire the best documentary filmmaker on planet Earth to make me a home movie so I can watch with my kids. And it's like now
Yeah.
you're like, it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So let's get right into it. It follows him in his final 12 days. He played the Laver Cup in London. Um, a lot of great things, man. Ideally, what were your initial thoughts on it? Give me overall. Did you like it or did you not like it?
I loved it. I thought the documentary was fantastic. Really interesting to see a player who had been at the top of the tennis world and the sporting world for so long, just coming to terms with the fact that this was going to be his last match.
Hmm.
And the people he surrounded himself with in these final days, getting to be on Team Europe for the Laver Cup with Rafa Nadal and Novak Djokovic and Andy Murray, three of his biggest rivals as a player, had to be really special for him. Getting to play doubles in his final
Hmm.
match with Rafa, um, they were incredibly emotional at the end of that match, and it just is a testament. I think we got a real good look at the friendship between Nadal and Federer, which I don't think a lot of people necessarily would have known about because they were such rivals on the court.
Hmm. Yeah. For my thoughts, it was tremendous. I love me a good documentary. I think it was a tremendously well put documentary. The use of archival footage was pretty amazing. I
Hmm.
remember when we were watching it, you were like, "Oh my god, they have a photo of him as a ball boy in Basel." That's where he
Yeah.
started out.
Not just
Um,
photos, video. They had
Video.
video of him as a ball boy.
Yeah, so so his mom probably had the camcorder out left and right, filming everything of fireworks. My bad. They're also excited for the Roger Federer documentary and its release. Um, so yeah, it was quite tremendous. It, it's just for many years I was a Roger guy. Yeah, I admit it. I was a Roger guy until the last couple of years when I learned more about Rafa, and I'm like, yo, that man is the goat. But you can see he struck a chord with everyone.
Mhm.
The elegance, the smoothness, the calmness. Um, and just him being honest with himself, where, there's moments where he was like, people wanted me to shout and scream when I was losing and fight back, but he's like, but that's not me. That was disingenuous, and I am fighting back. I'm just not yelling when I'm fighting back, but I am fight. And it just showed the inner workings of his mind, and the emotional gravity of a titan of a sport.
Yeah.
Falls, like walks away. Comparative to American baseball, a couple of days ago we lost Willie Mays. He died. This is not like Roger dying, thank God. But the emotion of, you're no longer going to be able to see him do what he does, and a lot of there's going to be an entire generation of kids. They look at their mom and their dad and they say, "Mama, Daddy, how good was Roger Federer?" And then
Yeah.
the mom or the dad's gonna sit them down and say like, "Well, let me tell you a story, my young one. Let me tell you a story of a man who, if elegance was a person, here he is." And then it just, we've known he's been retired for over like almost a year. He showed up at Wimbledon this year, I believe, but
Wimbledon
reliving
hasn't happened yet this year, Ferris.
last year. Sorry, he showed up Wimbledon last year. I apologize. Last year, I think they gave him like a standing ovation, justifiably so.
He's going
Justifiably
to
so.
get that at Wimbledon for sure.
Yeah,
He'll get that on any court in the world, but especially at Wimbledon.
yeah.
He won Wimbledon 7 times.
He broke the record, then the record was broken again. It was just pretty tremendous. And then like, what were parts of the documentary deal that you're like, oh, I didn't know this. Oh, that's
Well,
nice. I didn't know that.
there was a line from Severin Luthi towards the very end of the documentary. Severin Luthi, who was the Swiss Davis Cup captain and was one of Federer's coaches for a very big portion of his career, said, "Sports people die twice."
Mm-hmm.
And it's very true. This is like watching the death of Roger Federer, the tennis player, even though it's not the death of Roger Federer.
Mm-hmm.
And you really got a sense from watching this that he handled this extraordinarily well. He had come to terms with it. He had accepted it. This was time. His knee was giving him a lot of trouble, especially after a couple surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just time to move on as a player and be a person, be a dad. One of the things he says at the very end was, "I get to go home and be a dad, and I'm really looking forward to that." And I just think that even though he was extremely emotional right after on court, and the tears sitting there with Rafa and all of that, I think that the composure that he showed throughout all of this showed that he was a man who's 41 years old. He knew he'd had a phenomenal career that lasted way longer than most players' careers last.
24 years.
And he was ready to move on. And they show some fans talking to, I think it was Eurosport, at the end right before his final match. And they're all like, "Please don't go, please don't go." But I feel like he was just ready to be like, "No, it's time."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you get to make that decision, his knee was troubling him, yes, but he got to
Yes.
make the decision to go out on his terms. And so many athletes don't get that.
Yeah, it
And
was
I
good.
think that that was good for him to have gotten to do that.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, that usually the sport retires you.
Yeah.
They tell you when it's time to go. I know he hadn't been winning towards the end of his career, like at a rate that he usually did, but
Yeah.
he said it's my. He could have dragged it out for like a year. He
He
could have
could have.
dragged it out. He could have dragged it out, but then they get to the point where they're flashback to Wimbledon against Hubie Hurkacz, and he's talking about how I was playing bad, but I was, but what pained me wasn't me being bad. What was paining me was my wife was watching me struggle being bad, and she knew that I didn't like that, and she was in pain. And then I saw my parents in pain, watching me in pain and being bad. And then there was moments where he says they looked away and they couldn't watch. And then they cut to them and Minka's like,
Mirka's
like
looking
that,
away.
and then the dad is at,
Yeah.
and I think that was the moment where he was like, if my biggest supporters aren't enjoying this, it's time to go.
Yeah.
It's time to go. You know, and I think that's when he probably was like, yeah, it's time. It's time. Yeah. And my also too, something that I won't point out, like I didn't know him and Bjorn Borg were this tight, allegedly. You know, because he kept talking about Bjorn the entire time, and I'm like, okay, cool. He also kept making fun of Bjorn as well.
I don't
Bjorn
think he was
wanted,
making fun of Bjorn. I don't
yeah,
think that's making fun of Bjorn.
yeah,
Bjorn retired and stayed away from the sport for a long time, and I don't think him pointing that out is making fun of Bjorn.
yeah. It was pretty funny, but he brought it up like 3 times, and I was like, okay, we get
He
it.
did bring it up a lot, but yeah.
Like once, fine. 3 times. If I was
Yeah.
Bjorn, I'm like, if I was Bjorn, I'd be like, I get it. I retired early. Leave me alone. But overall, it was a pretty tremendous thing, you know. Seeing Bjorn and John McEnroe back together, that was something. Um, but yeah, man, Adelia, what were things about it that you like specifically loved? Because honestly, man, with great documentaries, you really can't talk about story structure and stuff. You know, it's just that you're just telling a great story about a man. We already knew most of the information, because if you read through articles and listen to him and over his career, you know, um, documentaries usually take the already presented information and convey it in an emotional manner. Do you think they did this? Did it hit your heartstrings? You cried. I'm not gonna. I welted up a little more than
I did
once.
too. I did
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
I did not tear up when I watched his actual retirement match, but watching this documentary made me tear up when we got to the retirement match and they're in that match tiebreak and it's match point and Federer serving and it could have been a fairy tale ending, but it wasn't.
yeah.
Um,
Because at one moment, like I know they lose. I know they lose, but in my mind, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait. I hope they win. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like you hope they win. You know they lose. What are you talking
yeah,
about?
yeah.
I completely forgot that, Tiafo does it again, keeps ruining people's dreams. Francis Tiafo, love Francis Tiafo. Expect big things out of him. But it is what it is. But yeah, it's like for a minute, for a split second, I was like, they're gonna win. Like a
Yeah.
little split second, they're gonna win.
Little split second, yeah.
And then,
Little split second where you're like, am I remembering this wrong? Did they
yeah,
win?
yeah. Did they win? I think they won. And then when he didn't get the match point, I was like, oh wait, yeah, they did lose. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, oh
Yeah.
damn. Yeah. But he was actually
Um,
happy they lost because he wanted to cheer the team on instead of play again. So
well,
there
he
was that.
wasn't gonna play again. He wasn't gonna play again, win or lose that match. That was
Oh,
his
okay.
final match. After that match, Rafa, his wife was about to give birth, so Rafa left and went home to Spain, and Federer
Mhm.
just was a cheerleader for the rest of the tournament. But he had one match left in him, and that was the match he played. So he
Yeah.
wasn't gonna play again. But it would have been a fairy tale ending had they won.
Mhm.
Fortunately, they didn't. I also really enjoyed the moment where they're all standing together. They're going to meet with the media or whatever, and they're in their suits. And Novak comes walking in and starts talking about how Bjorn told them he was wearing the wrong shirt, and then that makes them all realize they're all wearing the wrong shirts.
And
And
they
then
all change
Federer's like,
shirts.
"I'm gonna change."
No, I
That
like
was
how
really
Stefan.
funny.
I like how Stefan was like, also, man, good for you for knowing, you had the wrong shirt. I was like, I didn't know I had the wrong shirt. Djokovic's like, I didn't know I
Bjorn
was
told
wrong.
me.
Bjorn just told me
Bjorn.
5 minutes ago. And then Stefan was like, and then Roger's like, guys, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
And he walks away, and then you see Tsitsipas then walk with him away, and they both walk away, and then
Walk
because they're
away.
and they're talking about how oh you so Djokovic is late, but they're like, oh, but we knew you weren't be last, and they're like, well, how do you know? It's like Mateo's still not here, and he's like,
Yeah.
yes, Mateo, yes, and then then Mateo like walks in all late, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. But then also like another funny part with Matteo Berrettini, they're in the locker room. Like, is it before or it's before?
It's before.
They're in the locker room, and Rogers talks about the like grunting. and like grunting and hitting shot and like, and then and then he talks about like, oh yeah man, like those late grunters, I don't know why they late grunt, I don't understand. And
Yeah.
then Rafa's like, who's a late grunter? Lorenzo's a late grunter. And Rafa's like,
Lorenzo
yeah,
Sonego. Yeah, Federer
Lorenzo
goes, yeah,
Sonego.
you had a problem with Lorenzo, right?
He's like, yeah, I did, yeah. And then Berrettini's like, oh no, he doesn't do it on purpose. That's just the way he is. And Rafa's like,
No,
I
it
don't
was
get.
on purpose.
Yeah, it's on purpose. And you're like, no, Rafa, it's not on purpose. I've been playing with him since we were kids. I don't care about your explanation. It was on purpose. He completely disregards Berrettini.
That was really
It's like,
funny.
I don't care what you say. You can say the sky is blue and Lorenzo Sonego doesn't grunt, but he's a grunter. He did it on purpose. Like, Rafa gets mad. You could, like, he doesn't get
Yeah.
like, he's mad.
Rafa's not Rafa's very annoyed at Berrettini.
Yeah, he's like, hey man, I played against him. You don't gotta tell me. And then Mateo's just like, no, Rafa, no, he does this since it's like it was so.
It was very funny. Paris and I watched this together in our Discord, and we were both laughing a lot at that
No,
moment.
yeah, what's also funny about that moment, right? Then they focus on Roger talking to someone else, and you still hear Berrettini and Rafa in the background.
Berrettini's in the background going on about it. That was quite funny.
I couldn't stop laughing and doing it. Was there any other moments where you kind of like we laughed, we cried that made you laugh out loud?
There were some beautiful words from Rafa, from Novak, from Andy Murray about Federer in this, and just the whole presentation of the way that you never really there were a few moments where you saw them speaking on camera, but mostly you just heard their voice over footage of them playing against Roger or talking with Roger. And I just thought the whole presentation of the way that this documentary was put together was phenomenal. I thought the way that they weaved the backstory of the players in with the way that it was going on in the present, but we got these flashbacks to the past, and it wasn't just flashbacks necessarily with the rivals, but also flashbacks of just Federer, phenomenal shots that Federer hit throughout his career, and that great story about how when Federer stopped Sampras from winning 6 straight Wimbledons in 2001, Bjorn Borg called him up and said thanks.
Yeah,
only
thank you, brother.
for the eventually Federer, I believe, broke Bjorn's record.
Probably, I think.
I think.
Let me double check for you. Continue.
But there were just some really great moments. We see the recording. For those that might remember or don't know, Federer announced his retirement with a lovely voiceover video of his career on social media and stuff. In 2022, 12 days before his final match.
No,
And okay, he came close then if he didn't break that
5. He had 5 as well.
he tied the record.
Yeah, he tied the record. Yeah.
record.
Yeah.
So they show us at the beginning of this documentary, they show us Federer recording the voiceover. And we get to see him with his kids a little bit, but they're not the focus. And he talks at the end about how he never wanted them to be the focus. But it was still good to see him as he's got his family, and we see his parents. We see obviously his wife Mirka, who's been with him for years and years and years
Also
now.
a baller.
Also a former tennis player. She was pretty good. So you never really hear Mirka speak. That's one thing that I've never had heard Mirka's voice before we watched this. And seeing her get emotional at the end talking about, I wish I could have watched him play forever, but I'm glad I get to be here with him and live this life with him. And that was very moving and very touching. And what about you, Ferris? What are some of your favorite moments?
My man, it was just I'm trying to think, man, because I kind of got emotional. I kind of like forgot everything because it was just a well put documentary. Where he's talking about he didn't want to be the guy with surgeries.
Yeah,
right?
that's a big moment.
Yeah, he's like I'm never gonna. He was like my goal was to never have surgeries ever. When I'm in pain, I rest. When I'm not in pain, he was like, I'm willing to miss tournaments to do it. I'm never gonna have surgery. And he's like, then he says, then he says this. He says, the day I have surgery is the day I know it's over. And
the beginning of the end.
It's the beginning of the end. And then he talks about the shower and the bath, where he's like, I want to take a shower, but the kids were like, they wanted a bath, and we were going back and forth. And then they won. Of course they won. So we took a bath. And then when I was drawing up the bath, my knee clicks. And then he finds out that his meniscus is all messed up. He has to have a surgery on his meniscus. And I think that was the moment where he's like, yep, this is the beginning of the end. And that was the moment I'm like, oh wow, because he really didn't be that. And then then at the end where they say, he says, thank God I'm the one to go first. Well, thank God I'm the one who goes first, not because I'm older. It's because I think he says it's because he says it's because I'm older. I'm 5 to 6 older, but he also said I had a career without them. I now I hope for them to have a career without me. And that was beautiful. And then it gets to the moment where Rafa was like, I thought I was going to be the first one to go with my injury problems and my knee issues and my injuries. I thought I was going to be the one to go first because, Rafa plays, grit and going 110%. And it puts a lot of stress on his knees and his ankles. He has that disease, that chronic disease where it pinches the foot and the ankle nerves with intense movement. So he said, I'm going to be the one that's going to go. And then, they talk about how like we were friends off the court. We kept it friendly, but on the court is when the rivalry blossomed. But when we got off that court, we were friends. And then they talk about like how they grew closer because they started having more things in common. How injuries became a common thread. Fatherhood was becoming a common thread because at the moment, like you said, Rafa was becoming a first-time father. Roger had 4 kids before, Rafa now this is his first kid, and he's like, there's another connection right there, So seeing the evolution of the connection become stronger and deeper and long lasting was kind of cool.
Yeah, and hearing Rafa speak about how the feeling that he got before playing a final against Roger being something that he knew he would now never experience again, being something that was very painful to him, I thought was very raw and emotional and just in a sense that these two had a special connection on the court, and it turned into a special connection off the court as well. I mean, they've been playing each other since Rafa was 16 years old when he beat him in Miami in 2004. And they've played some of the most phenomenal matches I've ever seen. They've played the greatest match that I've ever seen in the 2008 Wimbledon final. Just so much.
Let's watch that documentary.
The Strokes of Genius. Yeah, we should watch that and do a review of it, even though it's older. But it's really
has one too.
There's several documentaries out there, yeah. But just this was so beautiful and emotional, and he just let everybody in on what those last few days were like. And I think the thing that means the most to me, having watched Federer since I became a tennis fan in 2005, is he was at peace with this. He knows that he could have kept on going and pushing harder and everything, but he'd made this decision and he was at peace with it. And that's all you can really ask for when you're an athlete, is that you're at peace with the way your career ends.
Yeah, he what did he say? He didn't want to pull a no, he said I don't want to put pure Bjorn Borg. My bad. I thought he said something else where like he retires and comes back. My bad. I was thinking of something else. I apologize. But yeah, man. Yeah, here's the thing, Adelia, right? They say, hey, don't idolize these people, man. You don't idolize these people. These are not, they're regular people, right? They're regular people. No, they're not.
No, they're not.
They're not regular people. People like Roger Federer are not regular people.
No.
you know, you can be easy with the idolization. That's true, but with Roger, family man, loves his kids, treated the game with respect, never shorted the game. He never
Mhm.
ever shorted the game. He gave you
Never saw the
110%.
man break a racket.
No, never. And he played tennis. This isn't like you going to the tennis court in your local park and you're playing with your homies. This is some other level stuff. You know, he's not. You know, and here's the thing about it is the human body shouldn't. I don't think it's built for that.
No.
Sports
No.
in general, and doing a sport for 24 years
Mhm.
of your life. You know, that's why that makes me think about, you know, with other sports, right? Like what makes certain people special, like they're there for a long time. The NFL is a very dangerous game. And if you have a 10-year career in the NFL, you're abnormal, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You're normal if you have a 5-year career because the usual span is 3 to 5 years. But if you do max over, you know what I mean, it's doing tennis, going back and forth, forward and up, down, your legs, you're moving around. 24 years is abnormal. It's crazy. What about you? What about you, Adelia?
Absolutely. I think that we have been blessed in tennis as fans of having this generation of athletes, not just on the men's side, but I'm also going to include Serena on the women's side, of having these multi-time Grand Slam champions that were at the top of the game for, you know, ever. And they had these epic rivalries and produced some of the best tennis we've ever seen. And I know that were a lot of people, there's been this fear of, well, what happens when they're gone?
Mm-hmm.
Federer, now retired, I think puts beautifully in this documentary that these guys that are there now need to, have the spotlight on them.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes Nadal and Djokovic for now, but Nadal probably in his last year. Andy Murray is in his last year.
Mm-hmm.
Djokovic, who knows? He's got the injury with the meniscus right now.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing this documentary in the light of seeing someone like a Carlos Alcaraz now emerging as a 3-time Grand Slam champion, seeing someone like a Yannick Sinner now emerging as the world number 1. It
Mm-hmm.
just shows that not only were these guys fantastic players, but they also were like custodians of the sport who left it in a phenomenal place for these younger guys to come up and thrive. And I
Mm-hmm.
really it's never explicitly said in this documentary, but I really got that feeling from watching it. Like Federer took his spot as the top of the game very seriously, and he left it in a phenomenal place for this new generation to thrive.
Absolutely. Just a pure bow on top because he loved the game and the game loved him.
Yep.
And he is he is the example. He's the
He
example, really.
he
Mm.
is perfection on a tennis court. If I've always said that if somebody came down here and you had to play one match for your life
Universe.
or the universe or something, I'd pick Rafael Nadal. But if you had to pick one person to play a match and it had to be absolutely perfect, I'd pick Roger Federer.
Mm-hmm. Like I think Yannick Sinner got the number 1 ranking, right? Where I think Andre Agassi said it perfectly, where he said, if there was a tennis tournament in the galaxy, you would be the person we would send. And that's,
Yeah,
I think, what Roger Federer was. If we needed a tennis tournament for the galaxy, and we needed 1 representative on the men's side,
on the men's side,
and we needed a perfect, like a perfect person, you send Roger Federer.
you send
You send
Federer.
him. You send Roger Federer because he was well versed in all 3. Like here's the thing, people be like, "Oh, he only has 1 clay championship." Like, yeah, of course he only has
He
1.
has one Roland Garros title because of this guy named Rafael Nadal who has
Exactly.
14.
Exactly. So like, And and it's just insanity to me because like I'm pretty sure he would have won more if Rafa doesn't exist. In my
Yeah.
opinion, because
He would have. He would have.
yeah, he was also good on clay. So let's not act like he wasn't. He was
No,
pretty good on
Roger was
clay.
phenomenal on clay.
Yeah, and he's just amazing. He's just tremendous.
Yeah.
The documentary, man, you can clearly see when they watched it over and they're like, look at this alleged home movie, and they're like, yo, this is good.
This is too good.
This is
We
too
have to
good.
release this.
Yeah, we got to release it. And thank the Lord they did, because what an amazing, like, he wasn't overtly private with his life, but he was still private with his life.
He was
And if
still pretty private with
you're
a
still
lot
pretty
of stuff
private
about
with his
his
life,
life.
right? And to see him just open the door, I didn't even know he had a sister.
I did, but yeah.
I didn't even know that. You know what I mean? So
We never see her in this, but
yeah, yeah. So like it's just, and then him saying, thank God I retired in London because London has been very special to me. Because I'm like, yeah, man, London loves you, bro. Well, Wimbledon more a specific part of London, Wimbledon.
yeah.
But
But
it was just tremendous all around.
he's beloved around the world for the way that he carried himself, conducted himself, played his sport to the highest level, and just was a great
Grace.
grace, and he was a gentleman at all times.
Mhm.
And he's going to be, he has been for the last, he retired in 2022, so it's been a couple of years now, but he's going to be sorely missed by the sport of tennis for a long time. And I'm glad that he's not going to stay away the way Bjorn did when he retired. I'm glad that
Mhm.
he's still going to be around tennis. And he's still out there doing things. I don't know if you caught it, but he just did the commencement address at Dartmouth this
Yep.
and it was a phenomenal speech about the things that tennis has taught him. And he's a really great guy. I think that people can learn a lot from as far as like how to model themselves as an athlete.
Mhm. Also, too, tremendous up and coming actor. Loved him in his Travel Switzerland ads with Trevor Noah.
He's very funny. His
Yeah.
Berea commercials, those are funny too.
Oh, yeah, those are pretty nice. Literally, Adelia, like when people talk about tennis, right? They talk about, you know, it's a gentleman's game.
Mm-hmm.
It's a gentleman's game. You're a gentleman. That's why, John McEnroe kind of broke that, right? Because McEnroe was like yelling at everybody. You know what I mean? So it opened the door to not just being, it became a passionate game, but he is tennis.
Mm-hmm.
You say, what is tennis? You say, Roger Federer right there. That's tennis.
Yeah.
Elegance, grace, gentleman. That's what that is. And here's the thing too. Savage grace, aggressive elegance, and cutthroat gentleman, because he wasn't gonna lose.
Yeah.
Like being a gentleman's all fine and dandy. If you're losing all the time, no one cares that you're a gentleman. They'll just call you a loser.
Yeah.
But that's not what Roger
He
Federer was.
he was a phenomenal player. I understand why people call him the best there's ever been.
Mhm.
My opinion is slightly different on that. I think it is Nadal, but there's 3 guys at the top of the sport for the last 20 years that you could say that about any of them for different aspects
Destroyed
of
a
the way the careers have
generation.
gone. Destroyed an entire generation. Carlos Alcaraz, with 3 Grand Slams, has as many Grand Slams as every player born in the 1990s combined on the men's side. That's insane. And it's
Also,
because these 3 guys have dominated, and a big part of that was Roger Federer.
and I think Carlos Alcaraz to this day says, "Thank the Lord I was born in 2004."
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, imagine that. Thank God I was born in 2004. Because imagine him getting swept up in the prime. It would just be
Yeah.
catastrophic.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see. What a tremendous output. Shout out to Roger. Shout out to Ashraf Kabadia. What tremendous Ashif Kabadia. What tremendous documentary he put together. Well, not even a documentary. It was a whole movie. We literally watched the whole movie. This was a home
They
movie.
do. They made it very clear that this was
Mhm.
meant to be a home movie, and
Mhm.
I'm so glad that they decided to release it.
Exactly. Any final thoughts, Adelia?
I recommend this documentary to anybody, whether you're a tennis fan or not. I think that learning about things that you aren't necessarily fans of or whatever are good. And I
Mhm.
think that this documentary does a great job of conveying how beloved this particular player was to his sport. And yeah, I'm gonna tell my parents to watch it.
Absolutely. Me, I don't do that rating nonsense. That 1 through 5, I don't do that. I just tell you if it's a thumbs up or thumbs down. Thumbs up.
Massive
Go
thumbs
watch
up.
it. Go watch it, man. Because it's tremendous. You laugh, you welt, you a little bit, you may cry, depending on how invested you get. Um, you learn and you accept greatness. But
Hmm.
overall, that's pretty much it. That's our review of Federer, the final 12 days. We recommend this film. And overall, we thank you so much for joining us. Delia, where can people find you?
You can find me on this channel Thursdays, 3 p.m. Pacific on the Rewatchers Council, our Buffy the Vampire Slayer rewatch series. You can also find me on Nostalgia Crackdown once a month with our buddy Josh, talking about the movie trivia Schmodown in retrospect, and Fridays with my buddy Ferris on the Open Table, 8 p.m. Pacific, talking about whatever we feel like talking about. And over on the highlights channel, starting 11, we are talking about the Euros and the Copa America right now on that show. That's Tuesdays, 3 p.m. Pacific. And the rally, I think Ferris is going to come back for Wimbledon.
I
What do you
think so
think?
too. I think so too. We also have something else in mind for the rally and tennis sphere.
We do.
Keep in mind for that. But yes, you can find me, Ferris Madonna. I mean, at Ferris Madonna on Twitter if you still use Twitter. Um,
I don't.
the_Ferris_Mathana on Instagram if you use Instagram. Every Friday, 3 o'clock Pacific, Good Friends, Better Rivals. We talk American football, NFC East, Giants, Cowboys. We won't be having a show this week. But yeah, join us. Join us. I believe this will be released on a Friday.
Friday, yeah.
Friday, 3 o'clock.
Hmm.
Friday, 3 o'clock on the Entertainment Channel. So that means we'll be going live on Good Friends Better. We'll be going live for the Open Table that day. Give you an update about my life and how it's been going. And yeah, overall, thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day. Make sure to like and subscribe, guys. We're at 149 subscribers. We're almost to 1,000, so just 50 more or 51 more. Share it with your friends, your family, your secret family down the street. Just sign up with all your Twitter, all your YouTube accounts. Have a wonderful night. See you guys next time. Adelia, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Hit that intro. Outro.